Okay, so today in this video, we're going to continue the conversation of parts of the circle and kind of formulas within the circle. In the last video, you did arc length, which is different than the arc measure. We did the central angle has the same arc measure, but the arc length is the distance between those 2 points that are created by that central angle. So now what we're going to talk about, and again, I told you to use the analogy of a pizza slice, but the today and like the arc length is the crust, the length of the crust. But today we're going to talk about sector area. And what I want you to think about is that sector area is the area of the entire pizza slice. Okay. So if I cut a pizza that's like this big, I'm going to have that arc measure, right? That arc length, that crust. And then I'm going to have kind of the pizza itself. And so what the formula is finding the area of the entire slice. Okay, so the area of the entire slice. So we're actually going to have very similar formulas, except one thing's going to change. Okay, so remember it's the measure of the angle over 360. So it's the portion of the circle. Now, in the arc length, we did times the circumference formula because that's the outer part, kind of the perimeter of a circle. But if we want sector area, we need to go over the area formula for a circle, and that is pi r squared. So the measure of the angle, measure of the central angle over 360 to find the portion of the circle that this slice contains times pi r squared. And pi r squared is the area formula for a circle. Okay, so we're just going to do some problems. We'll find different pieces. You could find the area, you could find the angle measure, and you can also find the radius or any portion dealing with the radius. So you could be asked to find the diameter. You could crazily be asked to find the circumference, but we'll get there when we get there. Okay, so let's take this example number 16. We know the angle measure, so that's 90 over 360, and then times pi r, and we know r in this case is 16 squared. And so I have my handy dandy with me today. You could absolutely do this over on Desmos, and I don't know if that's easier for you to type in. As additionally, we kind of talked about, there are ways that you could write the answer. You could write the answer as a decimal. You could also write the answer in terms of pi, okay, which means you're going to type in everything but pi. So let's do that answer first. So 90 over 360, and then times 16 squared. So this answer in terms of pi would be 64 pi. And then if I wanted the decimal answer, I would just times that 64 by pi and get 201.06. And again, I don't really care if you put unit measurements on it. I do know that Delta Math will probably do like inches squared or squared inches because it is the area. So every unit is squared within the area formula. Okay, cool. Number 17, the portion of the angle or the angle over the portion of the circle times pi and then 8 squared. So we're going to answer it in both ways. The 135 divided by 360 times 8 squared gets me 24 pi, because pi is in the finished answer, and then times pi. So then 75 point, actually that bumps up to 75.4. Okay, 75.398. Okay, cool. All right, let's go with number 20. We might come back to number 19, 18, and 19, but let's try number 20 first. It says find the measure of the central angle. Okay, so the angle is unknown. If the area is 5 pi and the radius is 6. So if I know that the formula is the measure of the angle over 360 times pi r squared, that's equal to the area. And if you want to even do like sector area, you could. Okay. I know the sector area, that's 5 pi. I don't know the angle, so I'm going to call it x over 360 is always there, pi is always there, and the radius is 6. So how do I solve for this? Okay, well, there's a couple things that you could do. Okay, you know how to solve. You absolutely know how to solve. So we are well into being able to solve for an unknown thing, even with how complicated some functions or equations look. Okay. I always try to get rid of the denominator first. Okay. While it makes some things kind of funky in the beginning, it gets rid of my denominator, and that I am always going to gravitate towards. Okay. So 360, and I'm just going to do times 5 if you guys are okay with that. So this brings me to 1800 pi equals all of the numerator. So the numerator is this. That's what's left in the numerator. Okay. Now with this, I can divide by the whole thing, everything but x. So pi 6 squared. I'm taking this slow so you guys can see what I'm doing. But technically, from that second unit 2, or if you're watching this in the spring, it would be unit 4, the rationals unit, okay? These pi's, anything over itself reduces down to 1, and then what you're really doing is 1800 divided by 36. So 1800 divided by 36 gets you the central angle of 50 degrees. Okay, the central angle would be 50 degrees. Okay, so flip it on over to the next page. Let's see if I have any over here. Actually, I don't think these are all arc lengths. All right, we'll do kind of a crazy one. We'll do number 18. That sounds good. It says the area of a circle is 25 pi, 225 pi. It says find the area of the sector whose central angle is 45 degrees. So what bit of the formula do I not have? I don't have a radius. Okay. I don't have a radius, but I do know that the area of the entire circle, which is pi r squared, is equal to 225 pi. So I could solve for the radius and then use that radius in the next portion. So if I divided by pi to try to get r by itself, that would leave me with r squared equals 225. And then the square root of 225 is 15. So the radius is 15. Now, if I know that the radius is 15, then I can take that value, and I can plug it into the area of a sector. So if I know that the degree of this portion is 45 degrees times pi r squared. Okay. Now there's a lot of ways that you could go about doing this, but this is the way that I'm going to show you. Okay. Times, we'll just do 15 squared. We'll leave it in terms of pi. Ew. I don't love that. Hold on. I don't love that, but okay. I actually might just times it by pi. Oh well. All right, we'll get the decimal. So 88.36. Cool. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, that is sector area. You can do a couple of those. These are going to go back to arc length. And then we are now ready for the next concept. See you in the next video.